This is one of Africa's most formidable predators trying and completely failing to eat one of Africa's least formidable mammals. According to the cameraman, this leopard pawed, prodded, and even tried chewing through the pangolin's impenetrable scales, but after about 10 minutes, it gave up and moved on. The pangolin may not be formidable, but it is extremely well defended, because the anatomy of a pangolin is like nothing else. It's the only mammal with scales used for armor, absorbing and deflecting massive force, while retaining flexibility. It also has a tongue as long as its entire body, and giant claws that they sometimes hold in front of them in the most polite way imaginable. I've known about pangolins for a long time, but honestly, I didn't know much about them. I was surprised to learn there are several different species of pangolin spread across a large geographic area. Some are absolutely huge, bigger than most dogs, and some are tiny, as small as a little rabbit. And even more surprising is just how evolutionarily distinct pangolins are from any other creature. Whatever you think pangolins are related to, you're probably wrong. And I was surprised to learn that the very thing I love about them, their gentleness and non-aggression, is tragically intertwined with their downfall. Pangolins are the single most trafficked animal on the black market, and not for the pet trade like you might guess. That would be bad, but what's actually happening is much worse. But rather than just focus on the sad stuff, I'm gonna focus on how unbelievably cool pangolins are. Because pangolins really are one of the most fascinating and unique animals on the planet. Platypuses usually get the title for weirdest mammal, but I think pangolins give them a run for their money. So how and why is their tongue as long as their entire body? Why are they the only mammal with scales, and how are they strong enough to defend against bites from some of the fiercest predators on Earth? What are all of the different types of pangolin, and how are humans exploiting their gentle nature? Pangolins, sometimes called scaly anteaters, walking pine cones, or ambulatory artichokes, are an elusive animal found in both Asia and Africa. There are 8 different species of pangolin, 4 in each continent, and each with its own habitat. In Asia, the Chinese pangolin prefers forested hills and burrows for shelter. The Sunda pangolin is found in lowland tropical forests. The Indian pangolin is more tolerant of dry habitats and human-altered landscapes such as agricultural fields. Lastly, the Philippine pangolin is endemic to a small cluster of islands in the Palawan province of the Philippines and is the most geographically restricted of all species, living in both primary and secondary forests. In Africa, the ground pangolin inhabits dry savannas and is the only African pangolin adapted exclusively to terrestrial life. The giant pangolin is the largest of all species. It roams dense rainforests and wetland regions and digs massive burrows. It can weigh over 30 kilograms. The white-bellied pangolin, sometimes called the tree pangolin, is arboreal. And finally, my favorite, the black-bellied pangolin, is the smallest and most agile, living high in the tropical forest canopy. Its long prehensile tail helps it navigate the trees with ease. It weighs between just 1.6 and 3.6 kilograms. And incredibly, there might be a secret 9th species that I'll explain more about later. These 8 species differ in behavior, size, and habitat, but all share an ancient and absolutely strange lineage. I'm gonna pause here and let you take a guess on what animal the pangolin is most similar to. I know I had a few guesses, and I was super duper wrong. If you guessed anteater, or aardvark, or armadillo, or even sloth, you'd be wrong. If you guessed bird or snail, you'd be even more wrong. The pangolin's closest living relatives are bears, or cats or dogs, really anything in the carnivora order. For a long time, everyone assumed that the pangolin was a xenarthran, like anteaters and armadillos. It seemed totally obvious. But recent genetic analysis showed that this wasn't true. They're much more closely related to the carnivores. This is so strange that it just seems wrong. The carnivora order is defined by having teeth and jaws adapted for eating flesh. And the pangolin doesn't even have teeth. Instead, it has a sticky, super long tongue. It's so long that it isn't even attached to their mouth like it is in most animals. Instead, it's attached near its pelvis and near the last pair of ribs. When it's at rest, the tongue coils up inside the body cavity, along the abdominal wall toward the right kidney. And when it's active, it extends out nearly the length of the pangolin's entire body, supported by its own strong muscular structure. So it's sort of like having a tape measure for a tongue that comes from your belly button. What's the point of such an extraordinarily specific adaptation? To capture ants and termites efficiently inside narrow tunnels and crevices. The tongue itself is coated in sticky saliva, produced by enlarged salivary glands, which traps the insects. And the tip is pointed and smooth, built for speed and accuracy, rather than chewing or manipulation. Ancestral pangolins probably had a more generalist diet than just ants and termites, but as ecosystems became more competitive, their ancestors became hyper-specialized to eat only these insects, since these bugs are nutrient-dense, abundant, and widely distributed. So any similarity pangolins have with anteaters and armadillos is a result of convergent evolution, two lineages of animals coming up with the same solution to a problem, separated entirely in time and space. And though it's often overlooked, pangolins play a quiet but crucial role in their ecosystems. By consuming up to 70 million ants and termites per year, they help regulate insect populations that, if left unchecked, can damage trees, crops, and soil structures. As they dig for their prey, pangolins loosen and aerate the soil, allowing air, water, and nutrients to penetrate deeper layers, benefiting plant growth and supporting the wider web of life that depends on healthy soil. Their foraging also clears leaf litter and disturbs the ground in ways that promote seed germination, indirectly aiding forest regeneration. But seeing as the ants are often buried deep in the earth or inside tree trunks like this, how do pangolins find them? Is it vision? Hearing? Scent? A 2020 study put two Sunda pangolins to the test. The experimenters offered the pangolins ants in 3 different conditions to see which sense they were using to detect the ants. In the first setup, the experimenters presented the pangolins with 35 grams of dead ants locked in an opaque box with a perforated lid so that they could smell but not hear or see the ants. In the second setup, they presented the pangolins with 35 grams of dead ants in a transparent box with a solid lid so that the pangolins could see but not hear or smell the ants. And in the third setup, they presented the pangolins with 35 grams of alive ants in an opaque box with a solid lid so the pangolins could hear but not see or smell the ants. And what they found was that the pangolins were the most successful in locating the ants in the olfactory condition, meaning they were likely using scent, not vision or hearing, to find their prey. They even found that the pangolins would also follow scent trails laid by the researchers to find the food. And this makes a lot of sense. For one, you can hear the pangolin absolutely huffing and puffing its nose in the experiments. And for 2, all but one species of pangolin is nocturnal, and their vision is thought to not be very good. And for 3, ants leave strong pheromone trails full of volatile compounds to lead each other to food or nest sites. It hasn't been experimentally proven, but it seems likely that pangolins could pick up on these trails too. Scent also likely plays a role in pangolin mating behavior. They have extraordinarily potent secretions from their anal glands, which they use to scent mark trails and burrows with. This scent likely serves to claim territory and to broadcast their reproductive status. And this advertisement is important because pangolins are solitary animals. They need this scent to be able to find each other. However, some pangolins are not always by themselves. There's a unique and intimate bond between a mother pangolin and her baby, known as a pango pup. After giving birth, usually to just one pup at a time, the mother becomes solely responsible for the baby's care and protection. In the wild, pangolin mothers carry their babies on their backs or tails. The mother continues to forage at night, and the baby simply rides along. This transports the baby while also keeping it safe. As the pangolin forages, sometimes it finds an ant nest that the tongue can't quite get to, and that's where their massive claws come in. Each forefoot is armed with 3 oversized claws, especially the middle one, which is the most prominent. These claws are used to tear open ant nests and termite mounds, breaking through tough soil, bark, or wood to reach the insects hidden inside. The ground-dwelling pangolins also use their claws to dig burrows for shelter. Ground-dwelling species like the Indian or ground pangolin create elaborate underground homes that protect them from predators and extreme temperatures. In the arboreal species, the forefoot claws are curved to better hold onto the tree branches. Despite their usefulness, these claws are so large that pangolins can't walk flat-footed on their front limbs. Instead, they tuck their claws under and walk on their knuckles, similar to how gorillas do. Some species even walk semi-bipedally to protect their claws, and hold their hands in the cutest way physically possible. The tail of a pangolin is also very muscular, and in arboreal species, it's even prehensile, meaning they can use it to grip branches to help them climb. For the bigger ground-dwelling species, it can even be used as a club to strike predators, though this kind of defense is rare. More often, their response is far less dramatic. When threatened, a pangolin typically curls into a tight, motionless ball. This simple act is surprisingly effective thanks to their natural armor, overlapping keratin scales that form a nearly impenetrable shield, protecting their soft underparts from teeth and claws. How are these scales so strong? And is it true that armor like this is stronger than chainmail? Especially considering that they're just made out of keratin, the same material as our hair and fingernails. It all comes down to how the scales are arranged, both in their overall pattern and their microscopic structure. The overlapping scales are arranged in a precise hexagonal pattern, each scale nestled at the center of 3 surrounding ones, overlapping like roof tiles. This means that the pangolin's body is completely shielded, with no weak points between the scales. And within each scale, there are also multiple structural layers. A cuticle layer composed of loosely attached flattened keratin cells, and 3 successive internal lamellar regions, creating a cross-lamellar architecture. A cross-lamellar structure consists of thin layers of material that are stacked in alternating orientations. Think of it like sheets of paper layered at crisscrossing angles. This creates a complex, interwoven structure where cracks or stress can't move in a straight line, making it harder for them to spread between layers. So when a predator bites a pangolin, the load gets shared across many scales, preventing puncture or penetration, making it stronger than chainmail at defending against blunt or piercing stabs. Interestingly though, the mechanical performance of pangolin scales is strongly hydration dependent, with moisture enhancing their toughness and crack resistance. Pangolin scales are so tough, and also so cool looking, that some ancient armor was made out of them. This armored coat is from India in the 19th century, and is made out of gold-decorated pangolin scales. I don't love that a pangolin was killed for this, but it is undeniably badass. This is so unique that it brings up a bigger question. Are pangolins truly the only mammals with scales, or are there others with similar armor? What about the armadillo? In biology, scale actually has a specific meaning. It means keratinized epidermal structures. Armadillos are indeed armored, but their protective layer is made mostly out of bony osteoderms. It's like a bony shell rather than overlapping keratin plates. Both are hard to damage, but pangolin scales are considered to be more specialized and stronger against attacks. But if scales are so useful, why does no other mammal have them? Most other animals simply rely on fight or flight. But because of the pangolin's highly specialized insectivorous diet, it was advantageous to develop armor to protect them when their head is buried in a nest. Scales gave them that edge, allowing them to be slow, deliberate foragers while staying armored against predators, like the African predators with some of the top bite forces in the animal kingdom, like lions, leopards, and spotted hyenas. However, the pangolin's evolution didn't consider one predator: humans. When a pangolin is approached by a human, it does what it always does and curls into a tight ball. It doesn't fight back, it doesn't bite, it doesn't flee in panic like many prey animals. Checkmate, it thinks, you can't puncture me. And it's mostly right. So instead, the human just picks it up and walks away. A pangolin's defense is overpowered for literally any other predator, and basically useless when it comes to people. On top of this, a pangolin's evolution didn't consider that its scales would become a weird fixation in certain cultures. In some parts of Asia and Africa, pangolin scales are believed to have medicinal and spiritual properties. Traditional medicine systems, such as traditional Chinese medicine, use the ground-up scales to treat a variety of ailments, including arthritis, poor circulation, lactation problems, and skin disorders, despite a lack of scientific evidence supporting these claims. Remember, they're just keratin. It's like eating your own fingernails as medicine. But some people also think that these fingernails possess protective or magical powers, and so they're also used in rituals. Because of these beliefs, pangolin scales are highly valued on the black market. Over 1 million pangolins have been trafficked in the last decade. Pangolin poaching in Asia is declining, but only because Asian pangolins have become harder to find. The Sunda, Philippine, and Chinese pangolin are all critically endangered, so now traffickers have turned to Africa's 4 species to fill demand. Today, Africa's white-bellied pangolin is the single most trafficked mammal in the world. It's easy to want to morally posture here, and it's fine if it breaks your heart. It definitely breaks mine. But instead of dwelling on sadness or moral superiority, let's take a look at what can actually be done about this. One study from 2023 accomplished something particularly impressive. They found a powerful way to trace the genomes of confiscated pangolin parts to their origins within 70 kilometers to pinpoint exactly where the pangolins are being hunted. Here's how it works. The researchers obtained 551 genetic samples from wild pangolins, where they were certain of their geographic origin, and created a reference genome map. From these samples, they analyzed genetic variation and found 5 distinct population groups that were strongly associated with distinct geographic regions. They then genotyped 643 scales confiscated in Hong Kong between 2012 and 2018 across 32 confiscations, representing approximately 100,000 trafficked pangolins, and found that 98% of them were strongly associated with 2 of these regions. One region is along Cameroon's southern border with Equatorial Guinea and Gabon, and the other is western Cameroon near the border with Nigeria. And this was sort of surprising. Previous pangolin seizure databases have indicated that 95% of pangolins were poached in Nigeria, but the number is more like 4%. Pangolins were just trafficked through Nigeria since it's a major hub before they get shipped to Asia. The research even revealed that many of the pangolins are coming from protected areas like national parks. There were actually 17 national parks flagged in this study. This reveals serious flaws in the systems we rely on to protect wildlife. This data is super valuable. Understanding where the pangolins are actually coming from can help enforcement efforts and disrupt trafficking chains. And the researchers also believe this method can provide almost real-time monitoring of trafficking patterns. They noted that early on in their study, poaching activity was confined to West Africa before shifting to Central Africa more recently. These changes in trafficking patterns could be because of increased enforcement or simply because of declining pangolin populations in West Africa, or it could be a combination of both of these things. Other genetic studies have also revealed something else incredible: a possible 9th mystery species of pangolin. Researchers recently analyzed the mitochondrial DNA from shipments of pangolin scales confiscated in Hong Kong, believed to have originated in Southeast Asia. They compared the genomes from these scales to all known pangolin species, and found that the genetic material did not match any existing species. Instead, it represented a deeply divergent lineage, one that split from other Asian pangolins around 5 million years ago. No live individual has ever been observed scientifically, and the animal remains scientifically undescribed apart from its genetic signature and a handful of scales. Scientists have named this species Manis mysteria. How cool is it that there's a cryptic mystery species just waiting to be discovered by the scientific community? And how sad is it that it might be hunted to extinction before anyone gets the chance? And how double sad is it that these hunters have one of the biggest scientific discoveries of the century in their hands, and for now have no way of knowing it? Genetic monitoring like this is a step in the right direction, but policy and enforcement is another huge piece of the puzzle. It was completely legal to export pangolins from Africa until 2016. It was banned internationally in 2017. You might expect this to have caused pangolin trade to slow down, but the opposite happened. It actually increased. In 2019, authorities intercepted more than 100 tons of pangolin scales globally, a monumental increase from the years before. And this wasn't just an increase in interception effort. Enforcement efforts were largely the same as previous years. Plus, it wasn't just the number of seizures that went up, the shipments were also much larger. But right after this, pangolin seizures did drop off. Because of something else that happened that year, COVID-19. But rather than a true reduction in pangolin poaching, I think it's likely that enforcement and seizures are actually what dropped off. Experts believe that during this time, the illegal trade just went further underground. Today, large multi-ton seizures are more rare than they were before, but smaller shipments persist, and online illegal wildlife trade remains a concern. The final piece of the pangolin trafficking puzzle is demand. It's so hard from where I'm sitting to understand how this can still be happening. It's so painfully, shockingly, gut-wrenchingly clear that this is all so completely unnecessary. But things are starting to change. In 2020, China removed pangolin scales from the list of approved ingredients from traditional Chinese medicine and elevated pangolins to a level 1 protected species. Just this year, China's Pharmacopoeia update removed all pangolin-based TCM products from the official list. This is a significant step towards protecting these endangered animals. But it's not the same as an outright market ban. Sweeping changes in regulations in a giant country like China would be the single most effective thing to help pangolins, along with major changes in public attitudes. But if you're like me, you wish that there was something that we could do in the meantime. Something real and something tangible. Something to help grassroots efforts and meaningful science. Luckily, now there is. I've been working with a great organization called Planet Wild that recently did a project to help save pangolins. They are a solution-oriented nature protection organization backed up by a community of around 13,000 people that want to give back to nature by funding tangible ecosystem restoration missions. Think of it like crowdfunding for nature. And they document all of their fantastic work here on YouTube. Every month, they team up with a partner organization to protect endangered animals, clean up the oceans, revive forests, or rewild landscapes. Recently, they concentrated their efforts on the fight to save pangolins. Here's how it worked. They partnered with a group called Save Vietnam's Wildlife, one of the few organizations in Vietnam that successfully rescues pangolins from traffickers, nurses them back to health, and eventually releases them back into the wild. With funding from the Planet Wild community, they were able to provide 8 new breeding enclosures, 20 sleeping boxes to safely house newly rescued pangolins, and 7 fully stocked vet cabinets, totaling 40,000 euros. These are tangible materials that get expensive for a small organization to purchase. But by combining the power of passionate people around the globe, the cost becomes less prohibitive. Planet Wild also helped release 8 pangolins back into the wild, which you can watch the full story of on their YouTube page. With this help, more pangolins can be rescued and released in the future. The numbers of wild pangolins can be revived. And with their amazing YouTube video, the pangolin trade can be combated with education. This approach to conservation is, in my opinion, a really good one. No shade to the giant conservation groups, but donating with Planet Wild ensures your money is going directly to help these efforts, not to inefficient conservation methods that have no demonstrable outcomes. And I love that Planet Wild doesn't try to implement everything themselves. They work with highly trusted local organizations and scientists to support the efforts that are already underway. That's why I'm also a member myself. So by signing up to a monthly or yearly membership, you can help fund these conservation efforts too, and make these projects even more impactful. And there's no set amount. You can contribute any amount that works for you. And every single dollar counts. And there's no catch here, you can cancel anytime, no questions asked. And once you're a member, you'll see the impact that you're having in less than 30 days through their monthly video and text reports. So if you've ever felt hopeless, frustrated, or anxious about the state of the environment, and want to focus your energy on solutions, then Planet Wild could be the perfect community for you. The first 100 people to sign up will get their first month paid for by me. Scan this QR code, check the link in the description box, or use my code REAL29. If you'd like to learn more about Planet Wild, check out their pangolin project here.